Hello! Hello everyone! Hi Red Candy Guy, Jake, Yeet God, Void Dweller, Atomic, Swaney, if you guys are still there after being here about an hour and a half before I even started. Welcome to the stream, anyone lurking, and welcome to anyone who is watching from the future via a VOD. I acknowledge you. Hi Luke! How you doing? Oh, stop it, Luke. Stop it. Stop it. Still here, Swaney? How goes the uni work? I hope you're making some good progress. Before I acknowledge all these compliments that Luke is now throwing out, I'm gonna preface this stream with this stream with the fact that I might not stream quite as long today as I usually would, if only because I am very sleepy. It's been a busy weekend for me. You see, there was a glitch in the library, and I ended up at a motocross event. A motocross event. IRL, my boyfriend won tickets to this motocross event for the weekend, and we went for the funsies, just to see what it was like, because you never know. And it was so cool. The tricks and things. Oh, very cool. Very fun. But very tiring. And it was a long day, and I haven't recovered. Even though I had a nap today, I really just want to go to bed. But we're going to read anyway. And it will be great. Finish your math assignment. All you have left is your English and IT computer. Nice! Well done. Good progress. Good progress. So yes. Hello, Brandy. Did Sherlock know how to fight, or am I thinking of something that's in live action? No, he did know how to fight. He, I believe he knew a form of martial arts known as baritsu. Famously, I believe that is what he knows. But we'll find out. I picked Sherlock Holmes today because obviously I'm having some trouble with some of the indie authors I've been contacting. They just haven't been getting back to me, which is a giant pain in my arse. But there is only 2 more Sundays until we hit spooky season. So I think we'll stick with Sherlock for this Sunday and next Sunday. And they're all short stories, so we'll just go through as many as we can. And we should be able to end it quite nicely on the end of a short story. And then next month we'll start. I kind of want to read Frankenstein. I think that would be good. I want to read the world's first sci-fi novel. I think that would be very fun for everyone and interesting. Yeah, spooky season. I've been looking through the threads of assets and things. It'll be very fun. I'm looking forward to it. Frankenstein. Yeah, that's what I'd like to read for spooky season. But for today, we're reading Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. You can get this for free because it is a open domain book from a lovely, lovely website. If you want to find classics, a lovely, lovely website is Project Gutenberg. They have everything that you would ever want when it comes to historical classics or just like royalty-free things. They are wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. It's Project Gutenberg ebook of Sherlock Holmes. Their link is in the description. I just hashtag not an ad, but they deserve as much of a shout out as they can. You live, Atomic. Welcome. That will be a good reference for when I read for our kids today. You haven't missed much other than me saying I'm very tired, so it might not be as long a stream as usual. No worries, Yeet God, you chill out. That's what these streams are all for. And that we're reading Sherlock Holmes, and that I might read Sherlock Holmes next week as well. And then at the start of Spooky Month, we'll start Frankenstein by Arthur Conan Doyle. See, look at how many. There's so many little stories. But first, we're gonna read A Scandal in Bohemia. A scandal! A scandal in Bohemia. To Sherlock Holmes, she is always the woman. I have seldom heard him mention her under any other name. In his eyes she eclipses and predominates the whole of her sex. It was not that he felt any emotion akin to love for Irene Adler. All emotions, and that one particular, were abhorrent to his cold, precise, but admirably balanced mind. This might be quite the scandal. I don't want any YouTube scandals. Oh no! He was, I take it, the most perfect reasoning and observing machine that the world had ever seen. But, as a lover, he would have placed himself in a false position. He never spoke of the softer passions, save with a gibe and a sneer. They were admirable things for the observer, excellent for drawing the veil from men's motives and actions, but for the trained reasoner to admit such intrusions into his own delicate and finely tuned temperament was to induce a distracting favour which might throw a doubt upon all his mental results. Grit in a sensitive instrument, or a crack in one of his own high-power lenses, would not be more disturbing than a strong emotion in a nature such as his. And yet there was but one woman to him, and that woman was the late Irene Adler, of dubious and questionable memory. I had seen little of Holmes lately. My marriage had drifted us away from each other. My own complete happiness and the home-centered interests which rise up around the man who first finds himself master of his own establishment were sufficient to absorb all of my attention, while Holmes, who loathed every form of society with his own bohemian soul, remained in our lodgings in Baker Street, buried among his old books. An alternating form week to week began being cocaine and ambition, the drowsiness of the drug and the fierce energy of his own keen nature. He was still, as ever, deeply attracted by the study of crime, and occupied his immense faculties and extraordinary powers of observation in following out those clues and clearing up those mysteries which had been abandoned as hopeless by the official police. From time to time I heard some vague account of his doings, of his summons to Odyssia, in the case of the Terepoff murder, of his clearing up of the singular tragedy of the Atkinson brothers at Trincomalee. And finally, of the mission which he had accomplished so delicately and successfully for the reigning of family of Holland. Beyond these signs of his activity, however, I merely shared with all the readers of the daily presses. I knew little from my former friend and companion. One night, it was on the 20th of March, 1888, I was returning from a journey to a patient, for I had now returned to civil practice, when my way led me through Baker Street. As I passed the well-remembered door, is it normal not to sleep because it's almost 3 a.m.? No, it's not. I'll be honest with you. You should probably sleep if it's nearly 3 a.m. As I passed the well-remembered door, which must always be associated in my mind with my wooing and with the dark incidents of the study in scarlet, I was seized with a keen desire to see Holmes again, and to know how he was employing his extraordinary powers. His rooms were brilliantly lit, and even as I looked up, I saw his tall, spare figure pass twice in a dark silhouette against the blind. Yeah, sleep is important, guys. I mean, that's the reason I told you this stream might end early. I am practicing what I preach and telling you to look after yourself and looking after myself too. Lead by example. He was pacing the room swiftly, eagerly, with his head stuck upon his chest and his hands clasped behind him. To me, who knew his every mood and habit, his attitude and manner told their own story. He was at work again. He had arisen out of his drug-created dreams and was hot upon the scent of some new problem. I rang the bell and was shown up to the chamber, which had formerly been part of my own room. Greetings, folks! Greetings! By the way, Bri, will you... One second. Let me pop out the chat so I can stretch it. Stretch the chat. What will it take for you to read Metamorphosis? I don't know. Is that a spooky one? Metamorphosis book. Let me have a look. Oh. There should be, if it's not spooky and fun. Metamorphosis is a novella written by Franz Kafka, was first published in 1915. One of Kafka's best-known works, Metamorphosis tells the story of a salesman, Gregor Samsa, who wakes one morning to find himself inexplicably transformed into a huge insect. Well, that does seem interesting. It's the Japanese doujin assortment. I will have a look for it, because that sounds like it would be good. So my plan for Halloween is to read Frankenstein for the month. But that might be a good one if it's a short novella style, to potentially actually read that on Halloween. So it won't take much for me to read it then. I'm drinking your 6th cup of coffee today. No, I think you should stop drinking coffee and go to sleep, Atomic. You might explode like the atomic you are named after. What is Comcast? I don't know. It's a communications thing, right? I did just look up Metamorphosis. I really just did. Franz Kafka. Unless you mean look up the Doshijin version. But I can't really read Japanese Doshijins on the channel, really. I mean, it's probably got issues with copyright and stuff, whereas the actual book will be with how old it is. Will be free to read, most likely. But I will try look that up at some point. Not sure if Metamorphosis is the right thing to read on stream. Yeah, I don't know. We'll find out. Not together. I will probably vet it a little bit first. I mean, this one has big drug references. It's okay, it's translated and censored. Yeah, pretty sure Metamorphosis is not safe for work. Fair enough. I have been warned. Fair enough. Maybe not then. Maybe not then. Folks, you have been overruled by my very nice chat that will tell me things. Thank you. Thank you. I would have found that out eventually, though. Made me freak out. Yeah, probably would me too. His manner was not effusive. It seldom was, but he was glad, I think, to see me. With hardly a word spoken, but with a kindly eye, he waved me to an armchair, threw across his case of cigars, and indicated a spirit case and a gasogen in the corner. Then he stood before the fire and looked me over in a singular introspective fashion. "Wedlock suits you," he remarked. I think, Watson, that you have put on 7.5 pounds since I saw you." "7?" I answered. "Indeed, I should have thought a little more, just a trifle more, I fancy, Watson. And in practice again, I observe. You did not tell me that you intended to go into harness. Then how do you know?" "I see it. I deduce it. How do I know that you have been getting yourself very wet lately, and that you have most clumsy and careless servant girl?" "No, that's fine. You derail things. What do you think about your pun? I thought it was great. I think there should be a housing association called Sherlock Holmes. It was wonderful. They detect the perfect home for you." "My dear Holmes," said I, "this is too much. You would certainly have been burned. And had you lived a few centuries ago, it is true that I had a country walk on Thursday, and came home a dreadful mess. But I have changed my clothes. I can't imagine how you deduced it. As to Mary Jane, she is incorrigible, and my wife has given her notice. But there again, I fail to see how you work it out." He chuckled to himself and rubbed his long, nervous hands together. "It is simplicity itself," he said. "My eyes tell me that on the inside of your left shoe, just where the firelight strikes it, the leather is scored by 6 almost parallel cuts. Obviously, they have been caused by someone who has very carelessly scraped around the edges of the sole in order to remove crusted mud from it. Hence, you see, my double deduction, that you had been out in vile weather, and that you had a particularly malignant boot-slitting specimen of the London slavery." Gonna go brew another jug of coffee. Oh, atomic stop. If Sherlock Holmes was your friend, would he be a Sherlock homie? Yes, he would. I wish I had a little mustache. I don't want a mustache, but that's a good idea. Ah! Nope, didn't mean to do that. What I can do is completely mess things up, apparently. Is this. One second. Boop, 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 boop. Do 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 do. Haha. It doesn't stay very well, but it'll do. Moustache, moustache. Did. Stash. A la gasp. It is le moustache. Listache. You'll never see Brainy again until you have read more Sherlock Holmes. You should go to Pound Tree, Dollar Tree. It's Dollar Tree International. Get a fake mustache. I believe it would be Poundland here. As to your practice, if a gentleman walks into my room smelling of iodoform with a black mark of nitrate of silver upon his right forefinger and the bulge on his right side of his top hat to show where he has secreted his stethoscope, I must be dull indeed if I do not pronounce him to be an active member of the medical profession. I am glad it is good. Because, I don't know, mustache was requested for the Sherlock Holmes because Sherlock Holmes. Oh yeah, Brandon, what do you think of Moon Girl themed cereal? I think it was a very entertaining suggestion. And it probably won't happen. But maybe I could make some in my own house for the giggles. And take you a picture. If I could figure out how to hang cam and all that wonderful stuff, that would make a very fun stream. Today we're gonna make Moon Girl cereal. No worries, Luke, you look. You chill out and look. You deserve it. Everyone chill. No, you're cool. You're cool. I could not help laughing at the ease with which he explained his process of deduction. When I hear you give your reasons, I remarked, the thing always appears to me to be so ridiculously simple that I could easily do it myself. Though at each successive instance of your reasoning I am baffled until you explain your process, and yet I believe that my eyes are as good as yours. Thank you, you have a nice look, you have a nice look. Quite so, he answered, lighting a cigarette and throwing himself down into an armchair. You see, but you do not observe. The distinction is clear. For example, you have frequently seen steps which lead up from the hall to this room. Frequently? How often? You've frequently seen the steps leading up into this hall. Well, some hundred of times. Then, how many are there? How many? I don't know. Quite so. You have not observed. And yet, you have seen. That is my point. Now I know that there are 17 steps because I have both seen and observed. By the way, since you are interested in these little problems, and since you are good enough to chronicle one or two of my trifling experiences, you may be interested in this. Alright, Moon Girl themed cereal is apparently out of reach. I asked an AI, but maybe on 2K subs you can post a video with budget increase of 1K Moon Girl model. I would love to have a Moon Girl model. If I could just make a little Drader model, that'd be good. Another question, Atomic, fire off. If you want to ask a question, by all means. Imagine talking to Bri, then getting hit by the ahem. Ahem. My eyes are here. Is it normal to blink more than 50 times a minute? I have no clue. I'm sure Google knows that, though. The all-knowing internet can probably answer that question. I definitely cannot. By the way, since you... He threw over a sheet of thick, pink-tinned notepaper, which had been lying open on the table. It came by last post, he said. Read it aloud. The Twitch. Looking at her moustache, or where you're looking. Well, my eyes are up here, not my moustache is here. My eyes are here.
My eyes are up here. Stop looking at my stash. I know it's beautiful. But stop. Absolute heathens. Moustache degenerates. The note was undated and without either signature or address. You look like your dad. Well, Void, go to your room. Probably already in your room, but shut up. Without either signature or address. I'm glad this has been a huge success. There will call upon you tonight at 7:45, it said, a gentleman who desires to consult you upon a matter of the very deepest moment. Your recent services to one of the royal houses of Europe has shown that you are one who may safely be entrusted with matters which are of an importance which can hardly be exaggerated. I can magnify myself with the mustache. I could make the mustache bigger. Too big? Not big enough. This is a mustache stream now. Is this magnified enough? My eyes, you can't even see them. I can't even say my eyes are up here because you can't see them anymore. Let's put that down. Let's put that down. Gonna put it on the Pringles jar. Let's put this back. Put this back here. Yeah, much better. Actually, now let me look at my camera and then adjust. Yay! This account of you we have from all quarters received. Be in your chamber then at that hour, and do not take it amiss if your visitor wears a mask. What if I sneezed? What if I sneezed? Achoo! Like that. It's probably how it would work with a wonderful fake sneeze. Don't cry, folks. Don't cry. I know it's beautiful and majestic, but don't cry. Never. My majestic moustache cannot be stopped. This is indeed a mystery, I remarked. What do you imagine that it means? I have no data yet. It is a capital mistake to theorize before one has data. Intensively, one begins to twist facts to suit theories, instead of theories to suit facts. But the note itself, what can you deduce from it? I do not have a detective hat and a pipe lying around, that is for sure. Silly is the best, though. I have officially drank 8, 9, and 10th cups of Atomic, you're gonna die. Your heart's not gonna be able to take that much caffeine. You need to stop. Please, for your own health, look after yourself. But I don't, unfortunately. I knew I had the mustache lying around, but I'm pretty sure I don't have a pipe or anything. Oh, I do have a... Ooh, I could make this ever so slightly more British, actually. One second. You're not fine, evidently. You are having too much kofi. Okay. Coming back with some tea! Yay! This makes it slightly more Britishy for this. I came back, it's fine! I got the milk for the tea, and now I'm back. No, don't make dad jokes. Ew, no. Why would I use creamer in tea? That's disgusting. We use milk. Milk. Oh, frick. Didn't mean to do that. Oh. Where the hell were we? Yeah, I didn't abandon you. Frequently, how often? Here it is. What do you deduce from it? I carefully examined the writing and paper upon the written. The man who wrote it was presumably well-to-do, I remarked, endeavouring to imitate my companion's process. Yeah, it's really, really flexible. Such paper could not be bought under half a crown a packet. It is particularly strong stuff. Particular. That is the very word, said Holmes. It is not English paper at all. Hold it up to the light. I did so, and saw a large E, with a small g and P and a large G, with a small T woven into the texture of the paper. What do you make of that? Asked Holmes. The name of the marker, no doubt, or his monogram, rather. Not at all. G, with the small T, stands for... Oh, lordy, German. Geltenschaft. Geltenschaft. Apologies to any Germans in the who may be watching. Which is the German for company. It is a customary contraction, like our co. P, of course, stands for papier. Now, for the EG. Let us glance at our own continental gazette. He took down a heavy brown volume from his shelves. Eglonzit. Here we are. Igira. I'm German and that's funny. It is a German-speaking country in Bohemia, not far from Karlsbad. Remarkable as being the scene of the death of Wallenstein, and for the numerous glass factories and paper mills. Ha, my boy! What do you make of that? His eyes sparkled as he sent up a great blue triumphant cloud of cigarette. From his cigarette. I wish I had a German Shepherd so it could watch along with me. Aw, they are big lovely things. Man, that was hard, drinking coffee with milk. Anyways. Atomic. I suppose if you're not gonna listen, then I cannot help you. The paper was made in Bohemia, I said. Precisely. And the man who wrote the note is a German. Do you notice the peculiar construction of the sentence? This account of you we have from all quarters received. A Frenchman or Russian could not have written that. It is the German who is so uncourteous with his verbs. It only remains, therefore, to discover what is wanted by this German who writes upon Bohemian paper and prefers wearing a mask to showing his face. And here he comes, if I'm not mistaken, to resolve all doubts. As he spoke, there was the sharp sound of horse hooves and grating wheels against the curb, followed by a sharp put-at bell. Holmes whistled. A little shade on the Germans here. You have to keep in mind that these are old-ass books. There is going to be probably some distasteful things in here. Let's face that. Hopefully they're not too much, and if it really gets bad, tell me, and we'll stop reading. Because it won't be the first time I've done this. I tried to read a long time ago a book called Tom Swift. And I laughed off a lot of the sexism in it. It was very, honestly, I found it kind of funny. You German, you don't mind? Wonderful. But when it came to the characters of colour in that book were not treated wonderfully, and I had to stop reading it. So hopefully Holmes doesn't do the same at the expense of Germans. I'm in full favour. But yeah. It's just, it's a product of its time. We have to accept a little bit. Otherwise you're editing history, and that's not right. A pair by the sound, he said. Yes, he continued, glancing out the window. A nice little brougham and a pair of beauties. 150 guineas apiece. There's money in this case, Watson. If there is nothing else. 'Twas, in fact, a very different time. Indeedy-do. I think I'd better go, Holmes. I'd be more shocked if they said something that could offend me. Fair enough. Not a bit, Doctor. Stay where you are. I am lost without my Bodswell, and this promises to be interesting. It would be a pity to miss it. But your client, never mind him. I may want your help, and so may he. Here he comes. Sit down in that armchair, Doctor, and give us your best attention. A slow and heavy step, which had been heard upon the stairs, and the passage paused intermittently, immediately outside the door even. There was a loud and authoritative tap. Come in, said Holmes. A man entered who could hardly have been less than 6'6" in height, with the chest and limbs of Hercules. His dress was rich with a richness which would in England be looked upon as akin to bad taste. Heavy bands of astrakhan were slashed around his sleeves and fronts of his double-breasted coat, while the deep blue cloak which was thrown over his shoulder was lined with flame-coloured silk and secured at the neck with a brooch which consisted of a single flaming beryl. Boots which extended halfway up his calves, high thighs, which were trimmed at the tops with rich brown fur, completed the impression of barbaric opulence, which was suggested by his whole appearance. So we sure Sherlock isn't gay? I mean, this is the version that... So, Sherlock is an interesting being when it comes to copyright and things. Also, this is not Sherlock describing the man, this is Watson. This is Watson describing this man. Brooch? Did I not pronounce it as brooch? A brooch, yeah, a brooch. I said it wrong. Yeah, so it's actually Watson here. So it's a Watson that might be a wee bit gay. Which actually, no, that makes Watson very bi. He said brooch. Brooch, yeah, brooch. Watching the king of all gays. He does have a wife, so I'm going to say he's bi. More fun that way. Oh, he's pan. Could be pan. He carried a broad-brimmed hat in his hands, while he wore across the upper part of his face, extending down past his cheekbones, a black visored mask. Wait, he's a Bleach character! What day is it today? It's Sunday, as far as I know. Which he had apparently adjusted at that very moment, for his hand was still raised as he entered. From the lower part of his face, he appeared to be a man of strong character, with a thick, hanging lip and a long, straight chin, suggestive of resolution pushed through the length of obstinacy. It's Monday for you? It's already crossed into Monday? I mean, that's a potential. It's probably Monday somewhere. You had my note, he asked in a deep, harsh voice and a strongly marked German accent. I am not even going to try with a German accent. I'm not even going to try. It will not end well. I told you that I would call. He looked from one to the other of us, as if uncertain which to address. Pray take a seat, said Holmes. This is my friend and colleague, Dr. Watson, who is occasionally good enough to help me in my cases. Whom do I have the honour to address? You may address me as Count von Kram, a Bohemian noble. Just speak through your teeth for a German accent. I can try. I understand that this gentleman is your friend. I mean, that is me talking through my teeth, so I'm not sure it's working. I understand that this gentleman is your friend, is a man of honour and discretion, whom I may trust with a matter of most extreme importance. If not, I must prefer to communicate with you alone. I rose to go, but Holmes caught me by the wrist and pushed me back into my chair. It is both or none, said he. You may say before this gentleman anything which you may say to me. The Count shrugged his broad shoulders. Then I must begin, he said, by binding you both to absolute secrecy for 2 years. At the end of that time, the matter will be of no importance. At present, it is not too much to say that it is of such weight that it may have influence upon European history. I promise, said Holmes. And I. You will excuse the mask, continued our strange visitor. The august person who employs me wishes his agent to be unknown to you, and I may confess at once that the title by which I have just called myself is not exactly my own. Your battery's dying, so you gotta go. No worries. You have a nice evening, folks. I will have fun with this stream. You can catch up with the VOD later if you wish. Bye! Yeah, please stop drinking coffee, Atomic. Please stop. Please stop. I was aware of it, Holmes said dryly. The circumstances are of great delicacy, and every precaution has to be taken to quench what might grow into an immense scandal and seriously compromise one of the reigning families of Europe. To speak plainly, the matter implicates the great house of Ormstein, hereditary kings of Bohemia. I was also aware of that, murmured Holmes, settling himself down in his armchair and closing his eyes. Our visitor glanced with some apparent surprise at the languid, lounging figure of the man who had no doubt depicted to had no who had no doubt been. It's the grammar differences between what I expect now as a modern person, because for this of a man who has been no doubt depicted to him as the most incisive reasoner and most energetic agent in Europe, whereas to me, in my modern tongue, the man who has been no doubt depicted to him as, I don't know, because that bean, I kept skipping that bean, that's why. Fuck me, I can't even read right now. I get paranoid off one cup of coffee. Oh my gosh, Bernie hated my Arcanine pump from last. No, I loved your Arcanine pump from last stream. I thought about it made me think about Arcanines in armor, and I loved it. Wonderful soft nightly boys. Is it normal to have one eye blink normally and the other delayed? Probably not. You should probably consult your doctor. I'm not a doctor. Don't ask me. I am not a medical professional. Holmes slowly reopened his eyes and looked impatiently at his gigantic client. If your Majesty would condescended to your case, he remarked, I should be able to better advise you. The man sprang from his chair and paced up and down the room in an uncontrollable agitation. Yeah. It does normally, let alone when I'm tired. But I am having fun, so I think I'm probably gonna... Let's see if I can at least go for an hour and a half then, because I am having fun streaming now. I feel like I've woken up a wee bit because I'm having fun. And genuinely, I'm kind of interested where this is gonna go. Here's something I learned. Never ask a woman her age, a man his salary, and briny when move off. Don't. Yeah, don't. It's so close. I just need money now. It's so close. You're not wrong. I'll get there, I promise. I'll get there. Then, with a gesture of desperation, he tore the mask from his face and hurled it at the ground. You are right, he cried. I am the king. Why should I attempt to conceal it? Why indeed, murmured Holmes. Your Majesty had not spoken before. Your Majesty had not spoken before. I was aware of that. I was addressing Wilhelm Gottsrich Sigmund von Ormstein, Grand Duke of Kassel-Felstein, and hereditary king of Bohemia. But you can understand, said our strange visitor. Yeah, I really want to get 5 out before the end of the year. I need to get on that. I just need the cover more than anything. But the actual writing itself is done. Our strange visitor sitting down once more and passing his hands over his high white forehead. You can understand that I am not accustomed to doing such business in my own person. Yet the matter was so delicate that I could not confide it to an agent without putting myself in his power. I have come incognito from Prague for the purpose of consulting you. Then pray, consult, said Holmes, shutting his eyes once more. Hey, maybe get a trailer out in November. That sounds like it'd be fun. That would be a cool idea. I don't think I've ever done a trailer for Moon Girl. I should do that. I should do a trailer for each book, really. Moon 1 trailer, Moon 2 trailer, Moon 3 trailer, Moon 4 trailer, and then a Moon 5 trailer. And then we can count up, but that might be me putting too much work on myself. But hey ho, I'll try. The facts are briefly these. Some 5 years ago, during a lengthy visit to Warsaw, I made an acquaintance of the well-known adventuress Irene Adler. The name is no doubt familiar to you. Kindly look her up in my index, Doctor, murmured Holmes without opening his eyes. For many years he had adopted a system of docketing all paragraphs concerning men and things, so it was difficult to name a subject or a person on which he could not once furnish information. In his eyes I found her biography sandwiched between that of a Hebrew rabbi and that of a staff commander who had written a monograph upon the deep sea fishes. It would get more copies sold, but it's so much easier said than done because written media is a written media. I don't have that many like pictures for it, and video is an audio-visual media. But then I guess I have a me now. So even if I'm doing a trailer with my model or something, or maybe I could, there are some programs where you can get like customizable models. Maybe I could do that to make some stuff, make some words. Come on, brain. Make some clips. Yes, clips. I'm gonna say clips. Do I know any animators? I know one, but he doesn't really do people. He tends to do maybe logo art and things like that. But yeah, trailers are very much easier said than done. But I think I could give it a go. I know a bit more now than I ever did when I started doing that kind of stuff. Look out for them, I guess, then. I'll put that on my project list. Let me see, said Holmes. Born in New Jersey in the year 1858. Contralto, La Scala, Prima Donna, Imperial Opera of Warsaw, yes! Retired from operatic stage, ha! Living in London, quite so. Your Majesty, as I understand, became entangled with this young person, wrote her some compromising letters, and is now desirous to get those letters back. Hello, Perry! I am doing good. This mysterious gentleman is doing good. We have tea and a moustache that is glorious. I'm gonna ignore you now, Atomic. I'm ignoring you. I'm ignoring you and your coffee habits. You're just making me sad. Betty the platypus! Precisely so, but how? Was there a secret marriage? None. No legal papers or certificates? None. I fail to follow, Your Majesty. If this young person should produce her letters for blackmailing or other purposes, how is she to prove their authenticity? There is the writing. Oh, pooh-pooh, forgery. My private notepaper, stolen. My own seal, imitated. My photograph, bought. We were both in the photograph. Oh dear, that is very bad. Your Majesty has indeed committed an indiscretion. I was mad. Insane. If there was a platypus emoji, I would use it right now. Fair. You have compromised yourself seriously. I was only crown prince then. I was young, but I am 30 now. It must be recovered. We have tried and failed. Your Majesty must pay. It must be brought. She will not sell. Stolen, then. 5 attempts have been made. Twice burglars in my pay ransacked her house. Once we diverted her luggage when she travelled. Twice she has been waylaid. There has been no result. No sign of it? Absolutely none. Holmes laughed. This is a pretty little problem, he said. No, he said he was young, but now he's 30. Mood. But a very serious one to me, returned the king reproachfully. Very indeed. And what does she propose to do with the photograph? To ruin me. But how? I am about to be married. So I have heard. To Clotilde Bothman von Saxe-Meiningen, second daughter of the King of Scandinavia. You may know the strict principles of her family. She herself is the very soul of delicacy. A shadow of a doubt as to my conduct would bring the matter to an end. And Irene Adler threatens to send the photograph, and she will do it. I know she will do it. You do not know her, but she has the soul of steel. She has the face of the most beautiful woman and the mind of the most resolute men. Rather than I should marry another woman, there are no lengths she will not go to. None. Are you sure she has not sent it yet? I am sure. Why? Because she has said she will send it on the day when my betrothal was publicly proclaimed. That will be next Monday. A soul of steel. Like balls of steel, but the soul. Oh, then we have 3 days yet, said Holmes with a yawn. That is very fortunate, as I have 1 or 2 matters of importance to look into at present. Your Majesty will, of course, stay in London for the present. Certainly. You will find me at the Lagom under the name of Count von Kram. Then I will drop you a line and let you know how we progress. Pray do so. I shall be all anxiety. Yes. You're going to sleep now. Good night, good morning, and good talk coffee. Good night, Atomic. I hope you get some okay sleep after all that bloody coffee. Balls of Steel is a great pinball game. I have not played it. I do like me some pinball though, but not on stream. Not on stream. We had that issue. I cannot focus on pinball and streaming at the same time, apparently. Then, as to the money, you have carte blanche. Absolutely. I will tell you that I would give you one of the provinces in my kingdom to have that photograph. And for present expenses? The king took a heavy chamois leather bag from under his cloak and laid it on the table. There are £300 in gold and 700 in notes, he said. Holmes scribbled a receipt under a sheet of his notice book and handed it to him. And Mademoiselle's oh, what? It's me! My name's in here! Oh, heck yeah! I have a lodge! And Mademoiselle's address, he asked. It's Briney Lodge. Briney Lodge! Briney Lodge! Briney Lodge! Briney Lodge! Oh, I'm so excited. Serpentine Avenue, St. John's Wood. Holmes took note of it. One other question, he said. Was the photograph a cabinet? It was. Then good night, Your Majesty. I trust that we shall soon have some good news for you. No, they didn't even give me money for that. I wasn't even born at this point, to be fair. excited to see my name with the correct spelling. I see my name in other places, but they usually have a Y here. Because that's the Welsh way of spelling Bryony. Bryony. But mine is an Old English way of spelling it, which is Briony. Which is this, and it is an Old English book, so that makes sense. Whee! And good night, Watson, he added as the wheels of the Royal Broadman rolled down the street. If you'll be good enough to call tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock, I should like to chat a little this matter over with you. Who misspells my name? Wales, apparently. And Starbucks, constantly. You say it's easy to pronounce, but people definitely have some issues with it sometimes. At 3 o'clock precisely, I was at Baker Street, but Holmes had not yet returned. The landlady informed me that he had left the house shortly after 8 o'clock in the morning. I sat down beside the fire, however, with the intention of awaiting him, however long he might be. I was already deeply interested in this inquiry, for, though it was surrounded by none of the grim and strange features which were associated with the 2 crimes which I had already recorded, still, the nature of the case and the exalted station of his client gave it a character of its own. Indeed, apart from the nature of the investigation which my friend had on hand, there was something in his masterly grasp of the situation and his keen, incisive reasoning that made it a pleasure to me to study his system of work and to follow the quick, subtle methods by which he disentangled the most inextricable mysteries. So accustomed was I to his invariable success that the very possibility of his failing had ceased to enter my head. Well, speaking for myself, my pronunciation was way off before I heard it the first time, Vtuber. A lot of people, you're not alone in that, don't you worry. I can understand the confusion when you're being introduced to new friends, though. Hey guys, this is my best friend, Brian Nee. Yeah. Brian Nee. I used to get shot into Nini when I was younger, and there was this funny moment. My parents are very proud of this at the beach when they were calling me over, and they were like, Nee, come here! And this other family at the beach looked really weird at them. They were like, why have you called your daughter Nee? What in the world? So just to giggle, just for absolute shits and giggles, they turned to my brother and they said, come here, Leg! Absolute comedians, my family. Comedians. So, yeah, and then it was close upon 4 before, and the door opened. And a drunken-looking groom, ill-kept and wide-whiskered, with inflamed face and disreputable clothes, walked into the room. Hey, Brownie, I realized a week or 2 ago, you're 3 months younger than my oldest brother. Oh, cool! Nice. Accustomed, as was I, to my friend's amazing powers of disguises, I had to look 3 times before I was certain that it was indeed he. With a nod, he vanished into the bedroom, whence he emerged in 5 minutes, tweed suit and respectable, as of old. Putting his hands into his pockets, he stretched out his legs in front of the fire and laughed heartily for some minutes. Well, really, he cried, and then he choked and laughed again, until he was obliged to lie back, limp and helpless in his chair. What is it? It's quite too funny. I am sure you could never guess how I employed my morning, or What I ended up doing? I can't imagine. I suppose that you have been watching the habits and perhaps the house of Miss Irene Adler? I can't believe Miss Irene Adler lives in a house called Briny Lodge. I'm so happy to find this out. Quite so. But rather, the sequel was rather unusual. I will tell you, however. I left the house a little after 8 o'clock this morning, in the character of a groom out of work. There was a wonderful sympathy and freemasonry among horsey men. Be one of them, and you will know all there is to know. So I found Briny Lodge. It is a bijou villa, with a garden at the back, but built out in the front right up the road, 2 stories, chub lock to the door. Large sitting rooms on the right side, well furnished with long windows, almost to the floor, and those preposterous English window fasteners which a child could open. Behind there was nothing remarkable, save that the passage window could be reached from the top of the coach horse. I walked around it and examined it closely, from every point of view, but without noticing anything of interest. Then I lounged down in the street and found, as I was expected, that there was a mews in a lane which runs down one wall of the garden. I lent the ostlers a hand in rubbing down their horses, and received in exchange 2pence, a glass of half and half, 2 fills of shag tobacco, and as much information as I could desire about Miss Adler, to say nothing of the 6 other people in the neighbourhood in whom I was not the least interested, but those whose biographies I was compelled to listen to. Basically, he helped out people, and then they told him all the neighbourhood gossip. And what of Irene Adler? I asked. Oh, she has turned all the men's heads down in that part. She is the daintiest thing under a bonnet of this planet. So that say the serpentine muse of a man. So the gossip. I think he means the gossip. She lives quietly, singing at concerts, driving out at 5 every day, and returns at 7 sharp for dinner. Seldom goes out at other times, except when she sings. Has only 1 male visitor, but a good deal of him. He is dark, handsome, and dashing, never calls less than once a day, and often twice. He is a Mr. Godfrey Norton of the Inner Temple. See the advantages of the cabman as a confidant. He had driven him home 12 times from Serpentine Mews, and knew all about him. When I listened to all they had to tell, I began to walk up and down near Briny Lodge. Briny Lodge, Briny Lodge, that's my name! Once more, and think over my plan of campaign. This Godfrey Norton was evidently an important factor in the matter. He was a lawyer. That sounded ominous. What was the relationship between them? And what the object of his repeated visits? Neighborhood gossip thing. Oh my God, Tiffany, did you know Void sits in his room all day and gets no sunlight? Oh my God, girl, you should touch some grass. I don't know why I went Valley for a hot minute there. Oh my God, girl, you hear about that lady in Briny Lodge? She has that one guy coming over all the time. Was she his client, his friend, or his mistress? If the former, she had probably transferred the photograph to his keeping. If the latter, she was less likely. On the issue of his question depended whether I should continue my work at Bryony Lodge or turn my attention to the gentlemen's chambers in the temple. It was a delicate point, and it widened the field of my inquiry. I fear that I bore you with these details, but I have to let you see my difficulties, if you are to understand the situation. I am following closely, I answered, and was still balancing the matter in my mind. I was still balancing the matter in my mind when a hansom cab drove up to Bryony Lodge, and a gentleman sprang out. He was a remarkably handsome man, dark, aquiline, and moustached. Evidently, the man of whom I had heard. He appeared to be in a great hurry, shouted to the cabman to wait, and brushed past the maid, who opened the door with the air of a man who was thoroughly at home. He was in the house about half an hour, and I could catch glimpses of him in the windows of the sitting room, pacing up and down, talking excitedly, and waving his arms. And I think because back then it wasn't as weird for other men to call each other handsome. That's actually more of a weird modern thing we've got. It really wasn't that strange back then to like point out other handsome men. They were both more stiff, and I think it's a weird thing in how, because we've come to accept gayness a bit more, the straight men are more afraid of being perceived as gay. Whereas in this time, because being gay was something that just didn't exist, it wasn't real. Obviously it was. Not saying that it wasn't, but to the general person it was. They were actually kind of more chill about saying things like that to each other, because why would it ever be gay? Gay is not a thing. What do you want about? Not in our society. It's generally just a very interesting little side effect, I think, that's come from accepting gayness. It'll balance out eventually. People will chill out eventually. Men need to compliment each other. Men need to call each other handsome more. Of her I could see nothing. Presently he emerged looking even more flurried than before. As he stepped up to the cab, he pulled a gold watch from his pocket and looked at it earnestly. "Drive like the devil," he shouted. "First to Gross and Hankey in Regent Street, and then to the Church of St. Monica in the Edgware Road. Half a guinea if you do it in 20 minutes. Anyway, away they went, and I was just wondering whether I should not do well to follow them when up the lane came a neat little landau, the coachman with his coat only half buttoned, and his tie under his ear, while all the tags of his harness were sticking out of the buckles. It hadn't pulled up before she shot out of the hall door into it. I only got a glimpse of her at the moment, but she was a lovely woman, with the face a man might die for. Monica confirmed. The 1800s confirmed. Nowadays, women call each other hot, and it's not weird. Exactly. Why can't men do that? Men need to compliment each other more. "The Church of St. John," she cried, "and half a sovereign if you reach it in 20 minutes. This was quite too good to lose, Watson. I was just balancing whether I should run for it or whether I should perch behind her landau when the cab came through the street. The driver
looked twice at a shabby fare, but I jumped in before he could object. The Church of Monica, and said, and half a sovereign if you reach in 20 minutes. It was 25 minutes to 12, and of course it was clear enough what was in the wind. My cabby drove fast. I don't think I ever drove faster, but the others were there before us. The cab and the landau, with their steaming horses, were in front of the door when I arrived. I paid the man and hurried into the church. There was not a soul there, save the two whom I had followed, and a clergyman, who seemed to be expulsing at them, lecturing them, I think that means. They were all three standing in a knot in front of the altar. I lounged up the side aisle like any other idler who had dropped into church. Suddenly, to my surprise, the three at the altar faced round to me, and Godfrey Norton came running as hard as he could towards me. "Thank God! You'll do! Come, come!" Are comic books hard to stream? I don't imagine so. It's the permissions issue again. I could probably stream some manga previews in the same way I can stream some light novel previews, but it's mostly an issue of permissions. "What then?" I asked. "Come, man, come, only 3 minutes, or it won't be legal." "What?" I was half dragged up to the altar, and before I knew where I was, I found myself mumbling responses which were whispered in my ear, and vouching for things of which I knew nothing, generally assisting in the secure tying up of Irene Adler, spinster, to Godfrey Norton, bachelor. It was all done in an instant, and there was the gentleman thanking me on one side, and the lady on the other, while the clergyman beamed on me in front. It was the most preposterous position in which I'd ever found myself in life, and it was the thought of it that startled me into laughing just now. It seems that there had been some informality about their license, that the clergyman absolutely refused to marry them without a witness of some sort, and that my lucky appearance saved the bridegroom from having to sally out into the streets in search of a best man. The bride gave me a sovereign, and I mean to wear it on my watch in memory of the occasion. "L. Samuel Johnson III, you may ask a question." "This is a very unexpected turn of affairs," said I. "And what then?" "Well, I found my plans seriously menaced. It looked as if the pair might take immediate departure, and so necessitate to very prompt and energetic measures on my part." "What book are you reading there, distinguished gentleman?" "We are reading The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. This one in particular is called, oh God, what was it even called? A Scandal in Bohemia, I believe this one was called." I would go back, but I don't want to go back. Can I view it a second time? No. Ooh, actually, I can check it. Let me get the actual title for you. I'm pretty sure it's got a... Yes, I was correct. A Scandal in Bohemia. Yush. It has a briny in it. Even though a briny is a house in this one. At the church door, however, they separated, he driving back to the temple and she to her own house. I shall drive out in the park at 5 as usual, he said as she left him. I heard no more. They drove away in different directions, and I went off to make my own arrangements. Scandalous. It is absolutely scandalous. which are some cold beef and a glass of beer, he answered, ringing the bell. I have been too busy to think of food, and am likely to be busier still this evening. By the way, Doctor, I shall want your cooperation. I shall be delighted. You don't mind breaking the law? Not in the least. Nor running a chance of arrest? Not in a good cause. Oh, the cause is excellent. Then I am your man. I was sure I might rely on you. But what is it you wish? When Miss Turner has brought in the tray, I will make it clear to you. Now, if The Simpsons had Sherlock Holmes episodes, would Sherlock be Sherlock Homer Simpson? They would 100% do that. 100%. He said as he turned hungrily on the simple fare that our landlady had provided. I must discuss it while I eat, for I have not much time. It is nearly 5 now. In 2 hours we must be on the scene for action. Miss Irene, or Madame, rather, returns from her drive at 7. We must be at Bryony Lodge to meet her. And what then? You must leave that to me. I have already arranged what is to occur. There is only one point on which I must insist you not interfere, come what may. You understand? I am to be neutral. You to do nothing whatsoever. There will probably be some small unpleasantness. Do not join in. It will end in my being conveyed into the house. 4 or 5 minutes afterwards, the sitting room window will open. You are to station yourself close to that open window. I do, in fact, prefer tea. Yes. You are to watch me, for I will be visible to you. Yes. And then, when I raise my hand, so, you will throw into the room what I give you to throw, and will, at the same time, raise a cry of fire. You quite follow me? Entirely. It's nothing very formidable, he said, taking a long cigar-shaped roll out of his pocket. It is an ordinary plumber's smoke rocket, fitted with a cap at either end. Make it self-lighting. Your task is confined to that. When you raise your cry of fire, it will be taken up by quite a number of people. You may then walk to the end of the street. I will rejoin you in 10 minutes. Probably. I hope they manage to sleep, I really do. I hope that I have made myself clear. I'm to remain neutral, to get near the window, to watch you, and at the signal, throw in this object. Then to raise the cry of fire and wait for you at the corner of the street. Precisely. Then you may rely on me. That is excellent. I think perhaps it is almost time that I prepare for the new role I have to play. He disappeared into the bathroom and returned in a few minutes in the character of an admirable and simple-minded nonconformist clergyman. His broad black hat, his baggy trousers, his white tie, his sympathetic smile, and general look of peering and benevolent curiosity were such as Mr. John Hare alone could have equalled. It was not merely that Holmes changed costume. His expression, his manner, his very soul seemed to vary with every fresh part that he assumed. The stage lost a fine actor, even as science lost an acute reasoner, when he became a specialist in crime. $10K is 10,000, my friend. It was 6:15 when we left Baker Street, and it was still and it still wanted 10 minutes to the hour when we found ourselves in Serpentine Avenue. It was already dusk, and the lamps were just lighted as we paced up and down in front of Bryony Lodge, waiting for the coming of its occupant. The house was just as I pictured it from Sherlock Holmes' succinct description. But the locality appeared to be less private than I expected. On the contrary, for a small street in a quiet neighbourhood, it was remarkably animated. There was a group of shabbily dressed men smoking and laughing in a corner, a scissor grinder with his wheel. 2 guardsmen were flirting with a nurse girl, and several well-dressed young men who were lounging up and down with cigars in their mouths. You see, tea is for bread? Tea is for bread? You can dip Oreos in tea. Do you dip bread in tea? You mean bickies, right? Biscuits. Remarked Holmes as we paced to and fro in front of the house. This marriage rather simplifies matters. The photo has become a double-edged weapon now. The chances are that she would be averse to its being seen by Mr. Godfrey Norton, as our client is to its coming to the eyes of his princess. Now, the question is, where are we to find the photograph? Cookies equals biscuits. Yes, correct. Where indeed? It is most likely that she carries it about with her. It is a cabinet size, too large for easy concealment about a woman's dress. She knows that the king is capable of having her waylaid and searched. 2 attempts of this sort have already been made. I love dipping chocolate chip cookies into coffee. Honestly, it probably isn't too bad, but I do prefer tea. We may take it, then, that she does not carry it about with her. Where, then? Her banker or her lawyer? There is that double possibility, but I am inclined to think neither. Women are naturally secretive. Of course we are. We keep all the secrets. And they like to do their own secreting. Why should she hand it over? Why would she hand it over to anyone else? She could trust her own guardianship, but she could not tell what indirect or political influence might be brought to bear upon a businessman. Besides, remember that she had resolved to use it within a few days. Ugh. I don't mind now. Wants to know how long this stream has been going? Apparently an hour and a half. I said it might have been a short stream at the start, but I've kind of got my wind, and I think we're going to get to the end of this short story if I can keep going. So we've probably got another half an hour or so to go. Are y'all mentioning coffee because you want Briny to cringe, or is it because you actually like coffee? I mean, a lot of people like coffee. There's a reason that it's popular. I just don't like it. It's gross. She could trust her own guardianship, but besides, remember that she had resolved to use it within a few days. It must be where she can lay her hands upon it. It must be in her own house. But she has twice been burgled. Pshaw! They did not know how to look. But how will you look? I will not look. Then what? I will get her to show me. But she will refuse. She will not be able to. But I hear the rumble of wheels. It's her carriage. Now, carry out my orders to the letter. I once drank 2 liters of coffee. Blah. Yep, you guys can have all the coffee. I'm just going to sit here happily with my many flavors of tea. As he spoke, the gleam of the sidelights of a carriage came round the curve of the avenue. It was a smart little landau with rattled up the door, which rattled up to the door of Briny Lodge. As it pulled up, one of the loafing men at the corner dashed forward to open the door, in the hope of earning a copper, but was elbowed out the way by another loafer, who had rushed up with the same intention. A fierce quarrel broke out, which was increased by the two guardsmen, who took sides with one of the loungers, and by the scissors grinder, who was equally hot upon the other side. A blow was struck, and in an instant the lady, who had stepped from her carriage, was at the centre of a little knot of flushed and struggling men, who struck savagely at each other with their fists and sticks. How much is 1 litre? I don't know. A lot. 1 litre is half a big Coke bottle, or 2 cans of Coke. Unless you have the tiny weeny cans of Coke, like the baby cans. I think that's then it's like 4 of those. Holmes dashed into the crowd to protect the lady, but just as he reached her, he gave a cry and dropped to the ground with blood running freely down his face. At his fall, the guardsmen took to their heels in one direction and the loungers in the other, while a number of better-dressed people, who had watched the scuffle without taking part in it, crowded in to help the lady and to attend to the injured man. Irene Adler, as I will still call her, had hurried up the steps, but she stood at the top with her superb figure outlined against the lights of the hall, looking back at the street. "Is the poor gentleman much hurt?" she asked. "He's not dead." That's the bad Lance. He holds the world record. Oh. He used to chug 2 litres of ginger ale. Whoa! I think I've had ginger ale a grand total once. What kind of soda do you buy? I have 2 right next to you, and I don't think it would make a litre. I don't. The soda cans that exist. Coke cans. I think they're 500 milliliters, aren't they? And that would make a litre, right? Unless I'm getting things completely mixed up. You love ginger ale, Fedus. You have a toucan right beside you. Yeah! Good joke, good joke. At his fall, the guardsman took... "Oh, he's not dead," cried several others. No, there's life in him," shouted another, "but he'll be gone before you can get him to the hospital." "He's a brave fellow," said a woman. "They would have had the lady's purse and watched if he hadn't been for him. They were a gang, and a rough one too. He's breathing now. He can't lie in the street. May we bring him, Mum?" "Surely. Bring him to the sitting room. There is a comfortable sofa. This way, please." Slowly and solemnly, he was borne into Briny Lodge and laid out in the principal room. While I still observed the proceedings from my post by the window, the lamps had been lit, but the blinds had not been drawn, so that I could see Holmes as he lay upon the couch. I do not know whether he was seized with compunction at the moment for the part he was playing, but I know that I never felt more heartily ashamed of myself in my life than when I saw the beautiful creature against whom I was conspiring, or grace and kindliness with which she waited upon the injured man. And yet it would be the blackest of treachery to Holmes to draw back now from the part which he had entrusted me. I hardened my heart and took the smoke rocket from under my ulster. After all, though, we are not injuring her. We are but preventing her from injuring another. Holmes had sat upon the couch, and I saw him motion like a man who was in need of air. A maid rushed across the room and threw open the window. At the same instant, I saw him raise his hand in a signal. I tossed my rocket into the room with a cry of "Fire!" The word was no sooner out of my mouth than the whole crowd of spectators, well-dressed and ill, gentlemen, ostlers, maidservants, joined in a general shriek of "Fire!" Thick clouds of smoke curled through the room and out of the window. I caught a glimpse of rushing figures, and a moment later the voice of Holmes from within, assuring them that it was a false alarm. Slipping through the crowd, I made my way to the corner of the street, and in 10 minutes was rejoiced to find my friend's arm in mine. And, to get away from the scene of the uproar, he walked swiftly and in silence for some few minutes, until we turned down one of the quieter streets which led towards Edgware Road. You did very nicely, Doctor. 355 milliliters, I took a look. Fair enough then. It's definitely not 2 cans for a litre then. I was entirely incorrect. You probably need closer to 3 and a bit. He remarked. Nothing could have been better. Is it all right? It is all right. You have the photograph? I know where it is. And how did you find out? She showed me, as I told you she would. I am in the dark. My guess is, like, if you shout fire, before we get his reveal. No worries, old Samuel Johnson III. See you next week. I hope you had a nice time while you were here. But let me get my guess in. I think because he shouted fire, Irene would have run to the photograph straight away. Because she needs it. She needs it to not burn up. If there's a fire, she's going to lose the photograph. So she needs to go save it. It's the first thing she would do. Therefore, he now knows where it is. I do not wish to make a mystery, he said, laughing. The matter was perfectly simple. You, of course, saw that everyone in the street was an accomplice. They were all engaged for the evening. I guessed as much. When the row broke out, I had a little moist red paint in the palm of my hand. I rushed forward, fell down, and clapped a hand to my face. It became a piteous spectacle. It is an old trick. That I could also fathom. Then they carried me in. She was bound to have me in. What else could she do? And into her sitting room, which was the very room which I suspected. It lay between that and her bedroom, which I was determined to see which. They laid me on the couch, I motioned for air. They were compelled to open the window, and you had your chance. How did that help you? It was all important. When a woman who thinks that her house is on fire, her instinct is at once to rush to the thing which she values the most. It is a perfectly overpowering impulse that I have more than once taken advantage of. In the case of the Darlington substitution scandal, it was of use to me, and also in the Arnsworth Castle business. A married woman grabs her baby, an unmarried one reaches for her jewelry box. Now it was clear to me that Our Lady of today had nothing in the house more precious to her than what we are in quest of. She would rush to secure it. The alarm of fire was admirably done. The smoke and shouting were enough to shake nerves of steel. She responded beautifully. The photograph is in a recess behind a sliding panel, just above the right bell pull. She was there in an instant, and I caught a glimpse of it as she half drew it out. When I cried that it was a false alarm, she replaced it, glanced at the rocket, rushed from the room, and I had not seen her since. I rose and, making my excuses, escaped from the house. I guess that briny figurine is just as valuable to me as a photograph as that. I hesitated whether to attempt to secure the photograph at once, but the coachman had come in, and as he was watching me narrowly, it seemed safer to wait. A little over-eagerness may ruin it all. And now, our quest is practically finished. I shall call with the king tomorrow, and with you. If you care to come with us, we will be shown into the sitting room to wait for the lady, but it is probable that when she comes, she may find neither us nor the photograph. It might be a satisfaction to His Majesty to regain it with his own hands. And when will you call? At 8 in the evening. She will not be up, and so that we shall have a clear field. Besides, we must prompt for this marriage. May be a complete change in her life and habits. I must wire the king without delay. We had reached Baker Street and had stopped at the door. He was searching for something in it, searching his pockets for a key, when someone passing said, "Good night, Mr. Sherlock Holmes." There were several people on the pavement at the time, but the greeting appeared to come from a slim youth in an ulster who had hurried by. "I've heard that voice before," said Holmes, staring down the dim-lit street. "Now, I wonder who the deuce that could be." Who could it be? I think we'll find out next week. Because as I let me take a drink first. Because as I stated at the start of the stream, I am somewhat tired. So I'm going to call it there. We'll finish off this short story next week. And maybe start the next one. Maybe try to get through that. Could probably get through it in one stream. These are pretty fun little short stories. Everyone likes a bit of Sherlock Holmes. But I hope you guys had fun. Thanks, Void. Thanks, Jake. Yeah, I read a good bit already, honestly. Apparently it's 7% of the whole last book. Thanks, Samuel Johnson III, and Rare Candy Guy, and Yeet God, and Perry, and Atomic, and Fox, and Swaney for coming to the stream. Apologies if I missed anyone. Thank you to anyone who looked, and thank you to anyone who watches the VODs. I highly appreciate you for coming. If you have not already, I would also highly appreciate if you could leave a like on the video and subscribe to my channel. I do some reading every single Sunday, so if you enjoyed this one, I will be doing it again. As I said before, my next books will be Frankenstein after we've done this one more week for spooky season. Okay, Barney, see you later. I'll be sure to go further beyond on Christmas. We'll see. I wrote a book. It's in the description. I also, I don't know. I'm tired. I'm tired and I'm not really going to shill today. There are lots of links in the description. You should go click them all. That's about as much shilling as I'm going to do today. Night, everyone. I had fun. I hope you had fun. This has been Briny Rose Smith live from the Forbidden Library. Goodbye.